Good evening. This is Maestro Cortello with a Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 1v1 on Greentooth Gorge. Our first player is Toilailee as this Orc Warboss. The Orc Warboss is a tanky melee hero, one of the best heroes in the game in my opinion. Very tough, very powerful, and he appears to be wearing a truck. He also has that cool bionic eye. These are new aesthetic things that he can get in the Elite Mod. Toilailee's opponent today is Giddolo, or Giddolo. I prefer to say Giddolo. Sounds easier for me. He's playing as the Eldar Warp Spider Exarch. The Warp Spider Exarch is a teleporting harassment hero, and he's about to get charged by the Warboss. I love this angle. So that Warp Spider Exarch, not that powerful to start out, mainly for harassing, killing models, and capping, but he does have some very interesting late game tier 3 war gears that he can do some pretty crazy stuff with. So this is Toilailee playing as the Warboss. Now Toilailee is one of the best players in the game, mainly made a name for himself as an Imperial Guard player, and specifically with the Lord General. And these days he pretty much does not play Imperial Guard. The last I remember seeing of his Imperial Guard was when he actually beat Holy Hammer in an Elite Mod tournament, won 3-2 in a best-of-5 set against Holy Hammer. So I guess Holy Hammer was the Warboss of Dawn of War 2, and right now it actually appears to be Toilailee. Alright, down here, Shooter Boys do not yet have their big shooters. We'll certainly see it eventually, but not yet. Toilailee apparently has other plans. I don't know where all of his power is, or his requisition. He has very, well, he's got some requisition, not that much, and as far as I can tell, he has not spent any power yet, except for the angry bits on his Warboss. Right now, his shooters are shooting at this Warp Spider Exarch, who does need to go soon, low on health, does retreat out of there, but does take one of the models off that Shooter Boy squad, and he might go down. Oh, but the Warboss derps and does not hit the Warp Spider Exarch. So right there, Dire Avengers may be in cover, not quite. But they did take those shooters down to not too much health. But Double Slug is definitely going to bleed a few Dire Avenger models. That's actually going to be the squad wipe right there. Certainly with the Warboss. No, we had another derp. That should have been a wipe on the entire squad, but it did not happen. I thought that was going to be a wipe on the entire Dire Avenger squad. So Giddolo gets lucky to get that Dire Avenger squad out of there. It still did bleed 4 models. But I thought that was going to be a wipe on the entire squad. Certainly a Dire Avenger squad having to... wow! Toilailee actually does have that Shooter squad, that Slugger Boy squad all the way up there, and wipes that Guardian weapon team really fast. I don't even know what that Guardian weapon team did. So Toilailee taking a few losses on his Sluggers, but certainly Giddolo definitely came out on the worst end of that engagement. Alright, over here, Giddolo has been annoying with his capping, though, and he is winning on the victory points. It did capture Toilailee's natural. And these Howling Banshees right here, they do not have an aspect yet, so they will take a lot of range damage. They cannot fleet, they cannot do War Shout or War Cry or whatever it is, and they will potentially lose models from these Shooter Boys, but if they get in range of those Shooter Boys, that will be a massive win for them. We do see the big shooters up right now, increasing Shooter Boy damage. That Shooter Boy damage is definitely one of the great advantages that Orcs has in Tier 1. In general, one of the great things about Orcs is that they have so much damage in Tier 1, so much DPS, that it's quite overwhelming. One of the great things is that they can use all that DPS, even if you don't have burners on your Sluggers, you can use that to wipe gens. Orcs are very powerful in that, usually from one engagement, they can actually wipe out your entire power farm, just because of how much DPS you get from all of their starting units. Mainly the Sluggers and the Shooters, but even from their other units, such as Storm Boys. Now, one of the things I want to take a look at here, the Warboss has been upgraded to the Enhanced Custom Shooter. That's the least commonly seen war gear you see from the Warboss. People generally don't get it, in part because it's a ranged weapon on a melee hero. And oh no, oh my god, Sluggers derping. I hope they get out of there, because that was really sad for those Sluggers to derp. That might be dead Sluggers. I think they will just about get out of there with maybe one model. Those Howling Banshees really don't deserve it. Alright, but anyway, I was talking about that enhanced custom shooter on the Warboss. You hardly see that. It is a ranged weapon on a melee hero. And those melee weapons are are very powerful. As it is, getting the enhanced custom shooter does not improve the Warboss's melee damage at all. It does increase his range damage, also gives him the shoot 'em good ability, which is basically equivalent to the Apothecary's full auto ability. Now, I think the main reason Holy Hammer got that is because without it, his Warboss basically cannot threaten the Warp Spider Exarch at all. Because basically, the Warboss, if he ever charges into the Warp Spider Exarch, the Warp Spider Exarch will just teleport away, just like that. Just like we saw right there. But with that enhanced custom shooter, he can use the shoot 'em good ability, knock the Warp Spider Exarch down, and then if the shooters and the sluggers are around to support, he can actually threaten to wipe that Warp Spider Exarch. Now, I don't know the exact mechanics of the shoot 'em good ability. I haven't used it enough myself, and I haven't seen enough of it to say if it's as good as full auto from the Apothecary. I don't think it is, but I can't say that for sure. But it still works similarly and can have the same effect. The Warboss is upgrading to get cyborg implants. That is an upgrade that will improve his stomp ability. Turns it into the big stomp, increases its range, and I believe it also changes its damage type. So that Warboss right now, fully upgraded in Tier 1, and does use that charge to get right in on that Guardian weapon team. So this is a replacement Guardian weapon team. And one of the things about that Angry Bits, the Now I'm Angry ability, is that it practically allows the Warboss to counter some of his counters. So Suppression is supposed to be a counter to melee units, but in that case we see the Warboss using both the charge ability as well as the health regeneration that comes with Angry Bits for some reason to just straight up charge that Guardian weapon team. Alright, Sluggers are just dancing around right here, actually upgrading to get their Slugger Knob. The other one is not getting its Slugger Knob. So one Slugger Squad fully upgraded, one Slugger Squad with no upgrades. This Shooter Boy Squad also getting their Knob, but needs to retreat so it does not get wiped. Oh, that's terrible. Toilailee, I'm guessing, just not paying attention. Really trying to wipe these, maybe wipe these Dire Avengers, but does not get it. So he was getting a Shooter Knob on those shooters, but then his shooters just got wiped. So that is really sad. So yes, let me see. One fully upgraded Slugger Squad. So that Slugger Knob does give these Sluggers... the Slugger Knob does have about... He does about 65 DPS power melee. So with the Slugger Knob, Sluggers do over 200 DPS, which is just outrageous. And then that Slugger Knob is also a lot tougher than the individual Slugger models. So right there, we saw that shoot 'em good ability was actually being used on the Banshee Exarch. Banshees have aspect of strength instead of aspect of fleetness. I've definitely been seeing more aspect of fleetness in the Elite mod than strength. But with the aspect of strength, the Banshees will be able to threaten that Warboss a little more so long as they can get close to it and so long as there aren't a million Sluggers coming out of it. Now this Warp Spider Exarch from Giddolo certainly has been very tricky. I don't think Toilailee has barely even had his natural victory point because Giddolo has had it with this capturing Warp Spider Exarch. So that Warp Spider Exarch has the improved targeters as well as the entangling web. This could be a dead Warp Spider Exarch, and it is in fact. Wow. Ooh, and the Autarch comes in. Might actually wipe these stick bombers from Toilailee. Charges in right there. Unfortunately, with her starting weapon. The Autarch's starting weapon only does about 34 DPS power melee. She is really threatening once she has that Executioner Spear with 64 DPS power melee. And Toilailee really pressing the advantage right here, driving a War Truck right into base. One of the things, I love the Autarch. I've often considered Eldar my third race. And I think the Autarch is one of the main things that made me want to at least try Eldar. I just love the way she comes in with those grenades, and then she comes and says, "Commander, I am on site." It's really cool. A Warp Spider, this truck just driving away from these these Banshees. That was pretty cool. Use your choppers, put on those sluggers, but the Banshees just retreat out of there. Now a Death Dread coming out from Toilailee, and Orc Walker. One of the worst walkers in the game, in my opinion, but I mean, it is a walker. It's still a vehicle. It's still going to do a lot of melee damage, and it's still a vehicle with about 1,000 something else. 1,050.
Good idea. You're so cunning and masterful.
So, Toilailee behind on the victory points. Mainly, I think, courtesy of this Warp Spider Exarch. And I wanted to talk about the Warp Spider Exarch's loadout. It does have the improved targeters. As you can see, improves range by 7 and range damage by 50%. So the Warp Spider Exarch's starting damage is roughly, I believe, 24. So if you're increasing that damage by 50%, that should bring his damage up to 36 DPS. Now, the Entangling Web is actually something that actually changes his damage. It's actually 34 DPS, and I believe that has not been changed in the Elite mod. This is still the retail tooltip. Death Dread actually destroying some generators, so with the combination of these two, that should be increasing the Warp Spider Exarch's damage to about 50 DPS piercing with his ranged attack, in addition to having much more range. Although that is assuming that these two stack, the Entangling Web with the improved targeters. This Death Dread is basically just bashing generators unopposed, actually does huge burst damage with those flamers. I mean, you can see it right there. Look at the damage on that flamer. Toilailee now taking massive map control. Bright Lance now from Giddolo, an AV choice, and Giddolo actually lost his Dire Avenger, so he's definitely a little low on units. That might be why he's starting to run low on map control. Stick Bombers go for a skill shot, hoping to catch Dire Avengers, I mean, Howling Banshees, and just straight up get them. But the Death Dread charges out of there, away from those Howling Banshees. Yeah, I was going to say, those Stick Bombers need to do the same. And these Sluggers actually running away from the VP, did not capture the VP, and I'm guessing, I don't know why he did that. Maybe he just wants the repair support for the Death Dread, or he wanted to be able to deal with those Banshees. Autarch now has the Executioner Spear. She is going to be a lot better in melee with that Executioner Spear. Also has her her Energy Shield. I don't know what the exact term is for it, but that's also going to make her much tankier. She won't quite. She still won't be like a Force Commander or a Warlock, but she's still going to be very tough. Does need to be extremely careful against these Sluggers though with Use Your Choppers. They are knocking down that Autarch, and they will do a ton of damage. Again, this is only a vanilla Slugger squad, but even a vanilla Slugger squad does 150 DPS out of the gate. And then Use Your Choppers does provide a damage buff. I don't remember exactly how much. I think it's something like 40%. So the Autarch, Giddolo actually keeping this Autarch in play, does not just retreat. Well, now she does. Now he does. But he did not retreat her. Just tried to micro her out of there so he could keep her in play. Although with two Sluggers, running out of energy, and then reinforcements from the Wartrock, yeah, she needs to get out of there. Still 400 VPs for Giddolo, only 224 for Toilailee. He's still rocking that enhanced custom shooter. And now we have a Wraith Guard actually from Giddolo. So the Wraith Guard are a short-range artillery unit, which is an oxymoron. It does not make any sense. But those Wraith Guard, the main thing is just that they do a lot of damage. The Warboss looked like he was derping there, and what happened was that Entangling Web, I forgot to mention, does have a snare ability. It's a unit snare, and you can only use it on one unit, but it's still a very good ability. Warboss might actually go down here, especially if the Warp Spider Exarch teleports and chases, but he does not. Death Dread needs to run away, maybe use the charge, get out of there. And here we have some stun bombs going in. Might stun, yeah, stuns his own Wartruck, and even the units that come out of the Wartruck are actually stunned. So that's just some interesting facts. Yes, some Bright Lance shots on that Wartruck. All right, Toilailee, as we can see, is going for a battle wagon. And Toilailee's, certainly, it really looks like Toilailee's winning right now. He's still way behind on victory points. But he's clearly has more control right now. I was going to say those sluggers would be in a lot of trouble were it not for the Death Dread and this other slugger squad in the war truck coming to support. And Giddolo, again, doing that Eldar thing, that capping game that you don't see as much in those big, crazy team games, but certainly you're going to see that in this game. And with both having the Warp Spider Exarch and the Autarch, that should allow Giddolo to keep up a bit on map control, even when he's down on units and is not winning fights right now. Giddolo is certainly suffering with losing his entire power farm. This is a dead Death Dreads, quite sadly. No? Oh, wow. That was actually certainly a lot of range on that right lance. I did not realize how far back it was, and the Death Dread actually gets out of there. No power blades on the Warp Spider Exarch, so he wasn't actually doing much in there, teleporting in. And the Death Dread just watching. I think the Death Dread needs to keep moving because one more Bright Lance shock will kill it, and that happens right there. So Toilailee, sadly, not quite paying attention. But he does have that Battle Wagon out right now. Now, the Battle Wagon is certainly not a very commonly seen unit. It does have 2,700 health. I actually like the Battle Wagon, and I think it's a very good unit. Some interesting things about the Battle Wagon. The main attack on the Battle Wagon actually does melta damage. Now, what that means, it will be good against vehicles. Melta does 0.75 damage against vehicles. That's the multiplier. So any damage it does will be multiplied by 0.75 against vehicles. But it actually means it does full damage to infantry, full damage to heavy infantry, and then it actually does bonus damage to super heavy infantry. So I once tried getting Terminators, Assault Cannon, Autocannon, Chaos Terminators to deal with a Battle Wagon. And I actually found them not doing that well against the Battle Wagon because the main attack does melta damage, does bonus against super heavy infantry. Howling Banshee's nearly going to go down. Now, one of the other things that's really good about the Battle Wagon is the fact that it has fast speed. I don't remember what the speed is exactly, but I think it's something like 6, which for a unit with this much durability, that's really fast. I mean, as it is, it can be tough to kill Razorbacks and Predators against players who know what they're doing and who are who will actually micro their vehicle. Think about a vehicle with that speed, except with 2,700 hit points. It can actually be very, very tough to deal with the Battle Wagon. So you definitely need some kind of snare, and right now Giddolo does not have one. So to be honest, I think that means he should get Warp Spiders, even though, I mean, he's in a tough situation at this point. We do have knobs for Giddolo, and I think that's also one of the reasons you don't see Battle Wagons as much. Knobs are generally the first choice for most Orc players for what they get in Tier 3. I think it's the easiest choice, and to be honest, probably still the best choice. But certainly, knobs and the Battle Wagon definitely have very different functionalities, and there's certainly going to be times when a Battle Wagon will be a better choice. But the knobs are probably still the best overall. And that Battle Wagon just runs over the Wraith Guard. And now Toilailee going for that base destruction again, trying to kill this building shuriken cannon. Toilailee does have a double cap. Warp Spider Exarch actually goes into the building. I think those knobs could actually... I think they're actually just hitting against the building. So it looks like some of the fighting, maybe something's going on down here. The War Truck might start taking hits. I think there's going to be a dead War Truck. Will Toilailee see it in time? Does just barely manage to get his War Truck out of the line of sight. But now he's moving his War Truck back in line of sight of that Bright Lance. Is using User Choppas as well as the reinforcement from that War Truck to win this fight against both Howling Banshees and the Autarch. Honestly, just some great Warboss play from Toilailee. Now the Warboss of Dawn of War 2. But now he's in trouble. Now he's in trouble. And I mean, look at how far his sluggers are actually reinforcing. And those sluggers winning against many units. And now a flank. Wow, and a wipe on those... I don't even remember what it was. It doesn't matter anymore. Giddolo is saying that Eldar T3 sucks. I don't know if that's true. But Giddolo's an interesting character. I mean, I don't know. You know, I think part of what happened is that even though Giddolo was winning on the victory points, using the power of the Autarch to, as well as the Warp Spider Exarch to get ahead in VPs just by out-capping Toilailee. I think on the fighting, Giddolo was already losing in Tier 2, and at this point it's just Toilailee has amplified the advantage that he has, or maybe exacerbated, whatever SCT word you want to use. I did not even know that you could garrison inside these buildings right next to your HQ. Most of the time you would never see that, because what do you need to put your units in garrison for right by an HQ? This game is already over. It's still going, but it's over. Now we have a Warp Spider squad. There's not a whole lot left to commentate on. Warp Spiders, they are getting that aspect of the Warp Spider, and again, I honestly think is pretty much necessary against that Battle Wagon. That Battle Wagon, again, with 2,700 hit points, speed 6. I believe it's speed 6. It's just going to be too hard to kill without... Wow. There go those Warp Spiders. It's going to be too hard to kill without some kind of snare. So, I mean, at least most races have a snare. I don't know what Grey Knights would do about this, about the Orc Battle Wagon. And then the only other, there's the main other race, well, Grey Knights have some kind of snare. But I don't even know. Orcs, I guess, if you're playing an Orc Mirror and your opponent gets a Battle Wagon, I suppose you could just counter with a Battle Wagon of your own. Yeah, I would actually like Giddolo to concede. Alright, I'm just gonna keep talking about stuff. Now we have a Falcon. Does do some light AV damage. Will do some damage to that Orc Battle Wagon, but I do not think it will be able to kill it by the time this game ends. Right here, we do see this Shuriken Cannon about to go down for Giddolo. But Toilailee honestly just trolling at that point. Certainly, it was a good game for a while, and Toilailee just steamrolled. So I hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.